Welcome to After Gray in this segment of Live, Learn, and Grow, where we believe the sharing of information from different perspectives can add value to how we live, enhance our experiences and or learning, and ultimately help us grow in the direction that we want to, or even help someone else grow, because sharing is caring. Today we're going to be talking about BEAT. That's BEAT. Beat. Information overload in a virtual world. How do we beat that? How do we avoid feeling overwhelmed and have a clear mind moving forward? Have a clear mind through our work days. How do we master that in this new virtual environment? How do we master that? Not feeling so informationally heavy. We've removed some of the human aspects, meaning the human engagement, the face-to-face interaction, the exchange of natural energies and body languages, and everything that comes to a meeting or a conversation. When you're in person, we've taken some of that away. So we've made it more, I don't want to say data driven, because when we think of data, we think about, just facts and figures and information. It's not really about sharing or teaching or depositing in a way where it does not feel heavy. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. So let's talk about it. Before we jump right in, I just want you to know fragments of the information that we're covering in this segment is taken directly from my ebook. If you haven't gotten it, please visit the website at
That's www.welive.learn.grow.com.
And you can just check under the ebook section. It's definitely economical, guys. It's definitely economical. So you can just download that and read that freely if you want all of the information on your own time. The fact is, as a society, we have instant access to information, more now than ever before. We have so much information at our disposal that our brains are processing daily, and we don't stop. We don't stop to take the time to decipher, to interpret, to get meaningful understanding. Not all the time. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes we're just taking high volumes of information in all at once. Let me just throw in some fun facts. Fun fact number 1. The first newspaper was written in the 1400s. The first television show in maybe the 1940s, the 1950s. The first patented typewriter, the electric one, maybe the 1940s. And the first invention of an official computer, maybe about the 1930s. What we know today as the internet, the 1960s. And then we have the World Wide Web. The first launch, 1990s. And what we know now is, like when we talk about social media platforms, they were maybe the late 1990s. And then we have bigger platforms that came in after, like MySpace and Facebook and Twitter and all these other social media platforms which were in the 2000s. Why is this relevant, you may ask? Is because it kind of shows you the timeline of how information was shared. We haven't changed as humans. Our pattern, our designs from the 1940s to now, humans are still being produced the same way, meaning our anatomies, our DNAs, our mental, our makeup It's still the same, but we are, as a people, being exposed and have access to more information than ever before. And it continues. This is just the way of the world. Technology has evolved, and we are moving forth with technology, and we're stretching ourselves to see, either we're stretching ourselves by accident or we're stretching ourselves because we're just going with the flow, or we have no choice but to stretch ourselves to see, okay, how does technology impact society and how we work, how we live, how we move forward in our new world. With that being said, we're just going to talk about what exactly is information overload. Does that exist? Absolutely, it exists. It exists, but maybe you don't know what to call it, or maybe you haven't identified it, or maybe it doesn't exist for you, but maybe it exists for others. So it's helpful that you know that there is such a thing. So when you're engaging, or you're teaching, or you're training, or you're giving information, you can kind of frame or see the signs or know that this is out there, and you may want to, move in another direction or tweak your materials just a little bit, understanding that this is where we are in our virtual reality. And even prior, this is not a virtual world thing. This is a thing that existed prior to us transitioning to a virtual environment, which means it's more now. I believe we should be more aware of it even more now than before, because before we had the trade-off with office meetings and body language and social engagement. Now we've removed all of those things and we only have our information. So we have to be aware of it. And what informational overload is described as an overwhelming feeling upon the receipt of a collection of indigestible or incomprehensible amounts of information. It's the sharing of sometimes a lot of information in one sitting. Have you ever had a meeting and the meeting was like maybe, 2 or 3 hours, but it was so informationally heavy that by the first hour, by the end of the first hour, everything just sounded monotone. So it's like, not that you weren't present, not that you didn't hear. It's just like you kind of tapped out. Sometimes that happens. You kind of tapped out because everything was just so informationally. It was a high volume, a deep depth of information, and there were no pauses, no inflections, no relatable engagements in that transfer. Because sometimes it's simply a transfer of information. You're in a session, someone is just giving you information. They're not giving it to you in a sharing way where it's engaging enough in a virtual setting. So it's just a load of information all at once. And for some people, that can be intimidating. It can be overwhelming. It can be challenging to retain and to ingest all at once. So what information overload is a high volume of information that cannot be ingested or cannot be processed or comprehend completely, all in that one setting. And maybe that person feels a bit taken back, overwhelmed, not really sure how they can, decipher it. Generally, when learning a new subject or processing new information, you're implementing 3 simultaneous processes. First, when learning information you may be a bit familiar with, the first process may be that you are replacing parts of the information, meaning you're familiar with it, a fraction of it, but maybe you're replacing parts to make it fit your role, your position, to increase or expand your knowledge. The second is where there's completely new information. So you're processing this information, meaning you're transforming this information, the knowledge that you've gained, and you're manipulating that information to fit, to fit the purpose, to fit the task at hand. So you can use it in a way that is productive. Does that make sense? And now let's talk about the third one. The third one really processes information or evaluates the information you're learning to ensure that it is adequate for the task at hand. It's like eliminating, you may hear, for example, you may hear a speech about whatever it may be, any topic, but a portion of that speech may not resonate with you. But then there may be another part of that speech that really hits home. So you take that learning or that speech or training, you take that portion, you apply it because you know it's relevant to your daily tasks and your experiences, or even it may be information that can develop you in another way outside of the framework of even what you're doing work-wise. With that being said, what I believe informational overload can directly be associated with feelings of stress, feelings of helplessness, feelings of anxiety in some aspects. And we're just talking about it. So one, if you're sharing information, you can be aware it exists. So you want to share it in a way that, especially because there's all we have is this virtual space, right? You want to share it in a way where there's just a bit of engagement when possible, not all the time. If you're doing just a short little segment, you don't, but knowing it exists kind of helps you gauge your audience, right? Knowing it exists helps you gauge your audience, and it kind of makes you dot your I's and cross your T's to make sure you're doing your part, and that's what it's all about. Everybody, whatever their respective roles or positions are, just doing the part, because we're all a part of a bigger system. We're all a part. We're all a link in the chain of success, no matter what positions we hold, right? Yeah, I believe in, if you've been checking out some of the other resources or materials available on my page, you'll see in our other segments associated with this ebook that we talk about the understanding the limits of the working memory. So I want to use this short window of time just to talk about, maybe talking about another topic, since we've already covered that in that segment. If you need more information about that, definitely go check out that video. So we're going to talk about managing your time. When you're processing a high volume of information, or you have a high volume of expectations in your virtual world, it's very important for you to get to a place where you're managing your time in a way that's conducive to being productive, not working hard, although we're all working hard, right? I hope we are working hard. We're doing our part in our daily task and our roles and our assignment. We want to be excellent, right? We want to be excellent. So in wanting to be excellent and bringing the best you to the table to make sure you're completing your tasks with excellence, with zeal, with all of the good energy that you should be bringing to your daily assignments. How you manage your time definitely plays a role. It plays a role in how you process information, how you get through that information, how you apply that information, and ultimately how you leverage that information. The goal is to ingest information, get to a place where you decipher it. Now I understand it. Now I'm comfortable. I know this information. And lastly, now I can take the information I've learned and I can leverage that information. That's an awesome place to be in, where you can and leverage it without without re, without requests, meaning that information is now a part of you. It's now a part of it's like a memory chip. It's on automatic, that information, or now it can be leveraged as an internal resource. You have it in your bank. Your mind is your bank. You have it in your bank. So now you can leverage that information as a conversational resource, as a training resource, as a support resource. Yeah. So, um, talk about managing your time. Let's get back to that because that's important. So, one, you have to understand your day has limits, right? Your day has limits. There are time limits in the day. So you have to be one clear. We're living in a virtual world. We've created these amazing virtual environments where we have home desks and home offices and our monitors. We have our complete setup, and we're in environments that are in environments, and it's different. And for some of it it's different also. For some of it it's different because we're used to some of us, we're used to that social engagement, we're used to that noise in the background, we're used to just being in a different environment when it comes to our work life opposed to our home life. So it's different. So even though we're at home, we can't be all the way comfortable when we're in our work environment. So one of the things, knowing your limits, and also in knowing your, I feel with knowing your limits, that's one thing. Yeah, knowing how many hours are in a day, but also knowing your inner limits, meaning um, some people, not everyone, they cannot be super comfortable and function at 100%. They cannot be, because you can see it in their work. So if you know you have the personality or the energy type, that's a limit. Understanding your limits, not just your time limits, but your overall limits is super important. Knowing yourself, knowing how you work in office when somebody's looking at you, knowing how you work when no one is looking at you, knowing how you work when you don't have to be micromanaged. So now you have to kind of be a grown up, be a whole grown up. We're professionals, guys, right? So now you have to make sure that you are definitely taking the time to tweak different areas that may not have been worked on because you were in a work environment. So you didn't have to work on those things. And now you're in a home environment. You have to make sure that you keep certain structures, right? That you keep certain structures, that you develop certain disciplines, like waking up before it's time to sign in, right? Like waking up earlier just to breathe, to stretch, to get your energy together, to get you in a working flow of things before you sign on, right? That you're not tired, that you're getting the appropriate amounts of rest, the appropriate amounts of sleep, because those things play a role. Knowing your limits, these are part of your limits. Your energy level, when your energy is down, how much. So since we talked about that in that video, definitely check it out in that video. And what we're going to talk about now, we're going to talk about organizing your time and a few things you should consider. There's a few topics in the ebook around the organizing your time. What we're going to talk about specifically, we're going to talk about limitations, right? We're going to talk about limitations. We're going to talk about multitasking. And we're going to talk about, some people may not like this one, but we're going to talk about the importance of removing distractions. The importance of removing distractions. Question: what are your limits in your virtual environment? What are your limits? What are we talking about? We're talking about time. Time. We know in a work day or in our, now it's not a work day, it's a virtual day, right? It's a virtual day, meaning there's no separation of work and home. There's the separation of the time assigned to do work, and then there's the time where you're not assigned to do work, that some of us are still doing work. And then there's the time that's our home life. That is our home life, and that's what it is. So within the frameworks of knowing the time and knowing your personality type, knowing your roles and your responsibilities, knowing your limitations so you can be productive as possible. Sometimes that has to do with knowing your limitations, has to do with your energy level. Getting enough sleep, prioritizing sleep and wellness and eating well and emotional balance and going for a walk for some sun. All of those things contribute to how you function through a day. And sometimes we need to encourage that a little bit, simply because we are in these virtual igloos. Yeah, these virtual, little hubs that we've created for ourselves. And we're not, those of us who are commuters, I'm a commuter. Those of us who are traditionally commuters into work, we've been commuting so long, being in a virtual world. For me, maybe it's just me, being in a virtual world is a little bit different. Not, I used to have to wake up super duper early, like, and yeah. So having to undiscipline myself from those time frames, or my commute time to my work, my travel time to my work life, and then the back end of that, doing it in reverse, coming home. It's, for some of us it's a little different, and then we have to now build these both environments are the same environment, meaning our work environment is now the work environment that we create, because now we don't have our colleagues that we can, lean over to and engage in a human conversation about whatever the topic or the task we have to do. Or, you can't see someone and offer them a wave and a smile. It's a little bit, it's different in the virtual world. There's the disconnect of that human component, although we have cameras and the virtual cameras, and it helps. It helps, but is it the same? We know it's not the same. It's not the same, but it definitely does. The fact that we can, if we absolutely need to, we can use whatever platform we're using to video call someone and, see their face and see a smile and have a conversation if needed, because sometimes it's needed, knowing your limits. So energy, making sure you're doing the right things even in your home life, to make sure you're bringing the right energy to your days so you can complete your tasks is important. Eat well. Go to bed. I'm not going to say at a reasonable hour, because I know me. You know your disciplines. You know your body. Listen to your body. Your body tells you usually when it needs food, when it needs rest, when it needs a distraction, meaning it doesn't need, it needs a mental woosah. It's doing a lot of your mind, and is doing a lot of work for you. So now you can see your engagement level falling off sometimes. Sometimes that's an indicator that your mind is just like, breathe. I need to breathe. I need a breath just to ingest what you just gave me, to process it and put it in the right places so I can be useful to you. So follow those internal indicators, and you'll figure out what works for you. Now let's talk about multitasking. And let me just go to the good old definition so we can be clear. It's a verb. It says, number one, of a person to deal with more than one task at a time. And number 2 says of a computer, execute more than one program or task simultaneously. With that being said, because I've read a lot of different things on the subject of multitasking, and I think multitasking, some people have a strong belief that multitasking is not the best method to be productive, simply because you're starting something, you're stopping it, you're doing something else. There's no flow, there's no rhythm, and for other factoring reasons. What I will say is, depending on the work that you do, one, when we talk about multitasking, I think that is definitely crucial. Depending on the type of work you do, what your responsibilities are, because I think built into some work roles, you're responsible to multitask. Okay, you're responsible, but you can also frame that multitasking out as far as what you need to complete. But you're kind of responsible. It's like, am I jumping rope? Yeah, you're kind of responsible to do all of these things simultaneously to reach the end goal, because that's really what it's all about. Reaching the end goal is just, you have to find your rhythm, your feng shui, depending on the type of work you do, as far as building a system that works for you. Building a system that works for you, where it's not really, it is foundationally multitasking, but the way you have designed a system, it's like you're completing bulk tasks in some cases at the same time, or you're blocking off. Some cases you may have to block off windows to say, okay, although this is a multitasking assignment, I'm going to process or complete all of these things because they're in the same area. I'm going to do this between a certain window of time, and I'm going to do this. And if there's something that interrupts me, you'll take it as it comes. You know what I mean? But just developing a system where you are tasking things out to be as productive as possible, and not picking something up, dropping it, picking something up, dropping it, because we know sometimes by the end you don't feel accomplished, and a lot of times if that is how your day is trending consistently, sometimes you're like, what did I do today? And like I said, we want to be excellent. We want to be productive. We want to bring our best self to our office life as much as we can. So just designing, even if I feel like, even if your work requires a little bit of multitasking, just designing a plan that gets you in the flow and making you feel as if you're being as productive as humanly possible in the framework of your position or your role. I hope that makes sense for you. Any questions? This is a recording, you can't answer me back. But you could drop a comment in the box. You could drop a comment below, and if you have a question, I'll definitely respond back to you with whatever comments you have. I'll put a little response back, or maybe I'll send you a direct message or an email. Yeah. So feel free to use the comment box if you actually do have a question. I'll definitely look at your comment. Last but not least, we're talking about removing distractions, guys. We're in a virtual world, but we're still professionals. We know we have to be present. And sometimes when there are distractions all over in the spaces that we've created for ourselves to be in the feng shui, the flow of our daily tasks, the flow of our work to make sure we're excellent, we have to be purposeful. And sometimes we have to have awkward conversations like, during these hours, you don't see me in the seat. This space does not exist for the outside world. I'm at work. Sometimes you have to have awkward. during these hours, you can pretend that this door is closed. It is not open. There's a do not disturb sign there. Do you need me to put it up? Kindly. We want to have kind conversations because we like, even at home, we want to have good conversations. Yeah, we've created these home life environments. If it's not an emergency, please don't open that door. If it you don't have to say hi to me. Not wave. I see you. You have a partner? Silence, please. I see you. Thank you. It's not an ongoing conversation. Thank you for that meal, for that lunch. I will eat it at lunch. Thank you. Because you want to stay task focused. Because you could be at home and get super relaxed. Meal come, all of a sudden, you eating, a whole half an hour passed by. You like, oh my goodness, I lost track of time. Because home is comfortable. When you're in your own space, your own home environment, it is comfortable, and it is so easy for you to get off focus. So it's important that you remove outside distractions so you could be excellent. Because that's become the work to be excellent, to bring our best selves as much as, like I said, as much as we can. We know sometimes we have off days. Sometimes we have off days. But if we strive, the thing with off days, I believe that, and this is the sidebar, y'all. The thing with off days, I believe, if you have developed a discipline or a habit to bring your best self to the table on a regular day, when you are having an off day, if you are still in the flow of things, by the end of the day, it just might get better. It just might get better because you bring in, even on your off days, bring your positive energy. Even on your off days, bring a positive your energy, a clear mind, a openness to hear, to listen, to handle your tasks as they come. Yeah. So I think you got the gist of the removing the distractions and the importance of that. So now let's talk about beat. So let's talk about beat. Beat, B-E-A-T, is a term that I have coined specifically for this ebook in this virtual world, in this virtual environment. The first acronym, B, stands for you're feeling overwhelmed. You're processing a high volume of information. You're feeling anxious. You're feeling stress. My recommendation is to breathe. Just breathe. Take a moment. Let's just take a moment. Let's take a moment, because this might have been this might be a lot of information. Let's breathe. Breathe through the nose, out through the mouth. Through the nose, out through the mouth. Yeah, sometimes just breathe. Take a moment. Let your mind slow down. Let your heart rate slow down. And just take a moment. Breathe. So the first B is for breathe. E. Evaluate. Evaluate what's important. What in this moment, what is in your control? What task can I complete? What can I do at this moment to be productive and add value to whatever I'm contributing to? So evaluate. A. A is for align. Align. Align your set target expectations to ensure that you're as productive as possible. Align what you're doing to execute and ensure productivity for your day. And T, task it out, okay? Design tasks to ensure that you meet your end goal at the end of the day, that you've accomplished what you intended to accomplish from the beginning of that day. If it's within, that's the thing, if it's within your control, because we can accomplish as much as we aim and set our minds to within the framework. There's some things that are not in our control, but within the framework of what's in your control, it's like you're reaching an agreement with yourself in the beginning of your day, right? In the framework of what is in your control, you're going to task it out. So BEAT, breathe, evaluate, align, and task. Beat. Well, we've reached the end of this segment of Live, Learn, and Grow. I really, really hope any of the information shared, if it was just a little bit helpful, I hope it was. Share it with a friend. Share even the little part that was helpful to you. Maybe it will be helpful to someone else as well. I encourage you to live, and I mean really live, you know what I mean? Find ways to free yourself to live the lives that you want to. Learn from experience, learn from other people, mentors, learn from the world around you. We're talking about information overload, so we know there's resources right at your fingertips. Take courses, continue your education, learn. And I want to say, don't just learn, but learn to leverage what you've learned. Learn to leverage, because I look in the world and I see some amazing humans that are really, really on to something. And I'm inspired and encouraged. Learn to leverage. When you learn to, whatever you are assigned to do, that means that you have been trusted, which is awesome. Whether it be your employer, your spouse, your children, you have been trusted by someone outside of yourself, because it's easy for you to trust you, but sometimes it's difficult for other people to trust you. And not you as a person, just the value in trust, okay? So you have been trusted to handle whatever is assigned to you. Whatever is assigned to you, you have been trusted to handle it. And you are equipped. Whoever trusts you, they found they looked at you and said, you got the skills, the ability, the stamina. They believed that you could do it. They didn't trust you and just say, okay. No, they trust you on the basis of something. It could have even been on the basis of a referral. That's still a trust, okay? And they saw that you were fit to do this. And now lastly, grow. At every space of your life, find ways to grow. Try and fail and grow, okay? Get up and grow. Get up and grow. Try and fail and try and learn. And learn. That's what you're doing. And learn and grow and grow and grow. Yeah, and grow. Well, that's the end, guys. Please definitely subscribe to my podcast. Follow us on IG. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll try to, it's filled with a lot of different things on the YouTube channel. So it's not just, it's about learning, it's about living. It's just about different information. Watch what applies to you, what you feel best fits you. And till next time, I hope you're living. I hope you're learning. And most of all, I hope that we are growing together, because I'm living and I'm learning to right as we speak. Till next time, live, learn, and grow.